Greetings. In this video, we're going to be discussing about the seller's property disclosure. The seller's property disclosure is a document that I highly recommend you always use when doing a sale on a particular residential property. It's good to fill this out and have the seller fill it out because it makes the seller disclose any type of issues or anything they know about the property that should be disclosed to the buyer. It's good to have this filled out for liability reasons, as far as you being the real estate associate involved in the transaction, and it's good just for both parties involved, the seller and the buyer, to make sure everything has been disclosed and that there's no surprises or anything. Even if you're selling an as-is property, which I highly recommend you always use the as-is contract, you still want to have a seller's property disclosure filled out. So before we begin today's video, I'd like to take a brief moment to discuss about our company for anyone new that's here watching this video. Nizz Realty Incorporated is a 100% real estate commission brokerage. This means we pay realtors 100% of your real estate commission. We have $0 agent fees, and the only fee that we charge is a transaction fee upon closing a deal. And we let you decide that transaction fee amount. We believe it's a better way to do business to keep you happy and let you choose a transaction fee that you feel is fair and acceptable for a brokerage to receive. For more information, feel free to read the description below, visit our website at nizzrealty.com, or feel free to call or email us for a free confidential consultation. Without further delay, let's get into today's tutorial video. The seller's property disclosure. Now, as the real estate licensee involved in the transaction, whether you're working with the seller or the buyer and having this document filled out, there's not much that you really fill out as far as you, because this document's actually supposed to be filled out by the seller. So let's just say filling it out for the seller, whether you're working with the buyer or the seller, let's just say you're preparing it for the seller to fill out, you really just put the property address here. So let's use a property address here. And that's pretty much it as far as what you fill out. The rest of it needs to be filled out by the seller. Now, if you're working with the seller, you can advise them if they have questions about this particular property, but most of the time they either know these questions, or if they don't know the answer to these questions, then they simply mark don't know. So it's pretty simple for them. They just read the questions. If they know something about it, they answer yes or no. And if they don't know, they just mark that they have no idea, they don't know. So they'll really just be marking if the property is occupied by a tenant or only occupied here. And then they just go through the documents here and mark yes, no, or don't know. A lot of times when I see this filled out, they usually mark don't know for many things. Or if they clearly know something, then they'll mark yes, that yes or no, where the situation may be. And if they need to fill in something here, then they'll fill in something here and explain what's going on. If they need to make a separate document that they have to write a couple paragraphs about something going on, then they will. I've rarely seen that, but if you need to do that, you can make a separate document to continue the writing of what needs to be explained. But for the most part, it's usually just a simple yes or no and a quick sentence or two if they do need to explain something. And that's it. You just basically, you can walk them through it. You could send this to them by digital signing and just make volunteer boxes here for them to mark which whenever they're going to need to mark, and they just fill out this document. And if they have questions about it, they can contact you and you can answer the questions here. If you're not really too sure, feel free to contact me and I'll help you through this as far as answering these questions. But really, it's all for the seller to fill out. They just keep answering these questions box by box, whether they know or don't know. And most of the time, if it's a question they don't understand, they just mark don't know. They just, that's pretty much, they're just disclosing to the buyer that they don't know the answer, and they don't know the answer to that question, and they don't know if, well, that's, whatever the question is asking. Like, have there been any improvements been constructed in violation of applicable local flood guidelines? If they don't know, then they just don't know. They mark don't know. It's as simple as that. Then, of course, just make sure they sign, print their name, and date the document. All parties involved, the buyer, the seller, make sure they sign, print their name and date, and make sure they initial each page. Every buyer and seller needs to initial each page. I see a lot of realtors, they forget that they need to initial each page and that they need to date it print their name and sign it. Don't forget simple things like that. It's completely unacceptable. I see it happen all the time. I talk about it all the time in my videos. You need to make sure they initial where they need to initial, sign where they need to sign, print their name where they need to print their name, and make sure they date it. It's unacceptable to forget such simple things. In this particular document, it's the seller's disclosure for residential, usually for single-family home. There's another document called the seller's property disclosure condominium, and it's the same exact thing, honestly. You just put the property address here with the unit number. If it's a condo and so forth, most of the time if you're using this, it is a condominium, so there is going to be a unit number most of the time. And you just have the seller fill out these questions here and answer them as they understand and know these questions. And it's the same thing. They go through the document. You could go through this with them and make sure everyone initials where they need to initial, signs, prints, and dates it. And that's pretty much it for this document. There's not much more to discuss about this. Like I said, you're not the one to fill this out. It's the seller, and it's whether they know something or don't know something. And if they need to explain something, they'll write it in. And if they have questions, they'll ask you. And if you're not too sure how to answer their questions, you could always contact me, and I could help you out with whatever their concerns are. That's pretty much it. You got the seller's property disclosure for condominiums, and you got one for every other property, usually single-family homes. Hope this video was helpful. We'll see you in the next one.